Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I had a whole bunch of people send me this story, and the question, of course, is what's going to happen in the future when, cars can drive themselves and so on. And Drive.com points out that it could even get crazier than we were expecting because future Ford models could repossess themselves and drive away if you miss payments. So the car could repossess itself. And, it doesn't take much imagination to see how it got there from where we are right now. And so you think about the days where, someone's behind in their payments and they park the car in the driveway, you go out in the morning, it's gone. And you go, somebody came by with a tow truck and grabbed it. And of course, your car, if it can drive itself and it's not blocked in, could just drive off on its own. So Peter Holderith wrote the story. As you know, car payments have been rising lately. Auto loan delinquency rates have been down, however, since the height of the pandemic. Ford has now applied for a patent to make the repossession process go smoother, for the bank, that is. The patent document that they submitted to the U.S. Patent Office in August of 21 was formally published a couple days ago, entitled Systems and Methods to Repossess a Vehicle. It's right there in the title. It describes several ways to make the life of somebody who has missed car payments harder, or, on the other hand, to make the life of the bankers easier. It explicitly says a system which could be installed in any future vehicle in the automaker's lineup with a data connection would be capable of disabling a functionality of one or more components of the vehicle, everything from the engine to the air conditioning. For vehicles with autonomous or semi-autonomous driving capability, the system could move the vehicle from a first spot to a second spot that is more convenient for a tow truck to tow the vehicle, move the vehicle from the premises of the owner to a location such as, for example, the premises of a repossession agency, or if the lending institution considers the financial viability of executing a repossession procedure to be unjustifiable, the vehicle could drive itself to the junkyard. And that concept right there is a mind bender. Think about this. They say, okay, this person's not making payments, they're in default. We're going to repossess the vehicle. But on paper, it looks like the car's not worth enough to justify that. So we'll just have it drive itself to the junkyard. Well, if it can get itself to the junkyard, it's got to have some value, right? Doesn't it? No? Scrap value? No other automakers have recently attempted to patent a similar system. And indeed, the Ford patent doesn't reference any other legal document for the sake of clarifying its idea. All of this being said, patent documents, especially applications like this one, do not necessarily represent an automaker's intent to actually use the features. Ford might just be attempting to protect the idea. The document does go into a lot of detail as to how the system could work, though. And I can tell you, I've read a lot of patents because of some of the books I've written have dealt with patents. And they will often describe a patent and list 75 things it does, but they'll actually only use it for one of those. But they list all the different things. And there's a lot of other things that go into it as well. The first thing to know is if your vehicle is connected to the internet in any way, this system could theoretically work on it. The application likewise describes a repossession computer that could be installed on future cars to make the system function smoothly, but it also states no extra hardware necessarily needs to be installed on the vehicle for it to function. In some embodiments, the vehicle computer may be configured to perform some or all functions of the repossession system computer. Basically, if your car has an infotainment system already set up to receive something like over-the-air updates, this could probably work without physical modifications. There would be several warnings from the vehicle before the system is initiated, a formal repossession. If these warnings were ignored, the car could begin to lose functionality ahead of a repo. The first lost function would be minor inconveniences like cruise control, automated window controls, seat controls, some components of the infotainment system. The next level is a more serious one and includes the loss of things like air conditioning, remote key fob, and an automated door lock unlock system. Likewise, an incessant and unpleasant sound may be turned on every time the owner is present in the vehicle. What they should do is they should record the sound of like just shrieking children and have it play through all the speakers throughout the vehicle anytime you're in the car. If all of that is endured by the car's owner and payment still has not been received, they could get locked out of their car. The patent application states that the repossession system computer may disable the door lock mechanism, thereby placing the vehicle in a lockout condition and preventing a person from entering the cabin of the vehicle. And of course, there's all kinds of things that go along with that. But I'm going to tell you right now, the article is much longer, and he goes into all these different possibilities, ramifications, and theoretical things that could happen. We're going to be hearing about this in the future. And if it comes, you're going to also be hearing all kinds of crazy stuff about people who weren't behind, who had stuff shut off in their car. It just happens. It's just going to happen. Because in the 31 years I've been practicing law, I've seen vehicles repossessed of people who were current in their payments. I've seen vehicles that got repossessed of people when they had paid outright for the car and had never had a loan on it. Okay? So somebody screwed up and they repoed the wrong car. That happens. So the insertion of computers and programs and patents into this equation does not mean it's going to go seamlessly. And so don't get me wrong. I would like a person to be there during the repossession process. Now, if you actually think that the car is perfectly capable of deciding whether or not it can lock itself up and remove itself from a property and drive itself to the junkyard without causing any trouble, I suppose it's possible. But we all know how these things happen. These things can have bad things happen. I've also got to mention that I don't talk a lot about patents on this channel. When they pop up in the news like this, I'll talk about them. And I've also mentioned that when people complain about my videos, not many, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I get a lot of complaints, but I rarely get complaints from attorneys. Almost never do attorneys call me up and say, hey, Steve, or contact me or message me or anything. Almost never do attorneys say, Steve, you got that one wrong. Almost never. But the one area that is apparently very, very touchy is the field of patents. And I did a story a while back about that guy whose daughter was asking him what he did for a living. And he said, I'm a patent lawyer. And he said, you come up with something nobody else has come up with before, and we file a patent, and then you have an invention. And so she came up with the idea about swinging a swing this way instead of this way. And they filed a patent on that. And now, at first, it was initially granted, and then apparently later it was ungranted. But the point is that I was joking about a system that would allow that would say that you think you came up with the idea about moving a swing this way? Go to a playground that has swings and watch for 5 minutes. You'll see a kid doing that. Now, nobody had patented it yet. And so one day I got a voicemail at my office, and the guy goes, Steve, I'm an attorney, and I'm in Washington, D.C., and I want to talk to you about a video you just did. So as a professional courtesy, I called the guy back, and he goes, I'm a patent attorney. I said, okay. And he just started going nuts. Absolutely going nuts about my opinion on that patent. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, do you think it was right that you could apply for a patent like that and have it even initially granted? And he goes, that's the way the law is written. I said, but I never said that. I was getting at that if the law allows that to happen, the law should probably be rewritten. And he kept insisting to me that he and his cohorts were simply doing their jobs. And I said, yeah, but if you're in a system and you're doing your job and you look around you and go, this is kind of weird, kind of silly, whatever you want to call it, you should understand that people on the outside might look at that and go, that's kind of silly. I said, so you actually think that I'm wrong for thinking it was silly to even have an initial approval on the swing side to side versus front to back? That I'm wrong to think that's silly? And he goes, yeah, because the law says that was a good application. And I said, well, here's the deal. You're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. And I personally think that if I encounter laws that are goofy, I'll point them out. I think that law is goofy. Here's why. So he and I agreed to disagree on that. And it was a long time ago. But it just popped into my head as I was reading the story here about the patents. And I'm not sure, because it looks to me like Ford patented an idea here that's probably occurred to a lot of people. If the car is self-driving, why send a tow truck for it? Hey, let's patent that. Okay, so I don't know if that patent will withstand all challenges for anybody to even bother challenging it, but it does seem like a pretty obvious extension of something that was already there. But the full story is at thedrive.com. Peter Holdworth wrote it. Future Fords could repossess themselves and drive away if you miss payments. And even if necessary, drive themselves to the junkyard. I got to thank Andrew, Donald, Christoph, Dennis, Jeremy, and another Andrew. Wow, 2. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. All journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware.